Almost nothing will enhance fat loss, improve muscle gain and strength gain, improve longevity like good, consistent, quality sleep. Now, there's a lot of information out there, lots of supplements that say they help you get to sleep faster, sleep longer, lots of products that are out there that tell you they can help you. But the truth is, some of them don't really work or help that much at all. So what we're going to talk about are the 5 things that have been proven to improve your sleep. In fact, if you do all 5 of them, you are almost guaranteed to get better quality sleep, better recovery, better fat loss, and better muscle gain.
Ooh, I like this one.
It's not NyQuil either.
This is
I learned that one the hard way
at our house right now.
Sleep.
Yeah, I mean, Katrina and I both, admittedly, we go in bouts like this where, a lot of times it's attached to, we're into a series.
That's the one.
Like a show. And, you know, we our rule of being in the bed and lights all off and no electronics before 10 o'clock, we start to bend on that rule. And it starts to be 10:30. And then it's 11, and then you have a couple crazy nights. You're like, shit, it's midnight. We've already watched like 3 of these. We got to go to bed, right? And this beginning of this week, we've made an effort. Like, hey, we're gonna watch a show, one of our shows. That's it. No matter how addictive it is, and this and that, we're going to bed before 10 o'clock. And so we've been in our bedroom by 9:30. And oh my god, just that
big difference.
That alone. Yeah. I've had the most, I mean, I've woken up without my alarm clock all week. And that to me is always like the sign of like when I'm well rested, like I don't even need an alarm clock to wake me up.
It affects everything. The data on this is very clear. Subpar sleep or below optimum sleep. So it doesn't have to be terrible. I think people know when they have terrible sleep, right? You know that. But a lot of people just get by with sleep patterns that aren't ideal. And maybe they've been doing it for so long that they don't realize the effects. But the data on this is clear. Your risk of injury when you work out goes through the roof. In fact, it's one of the easiest ways to increase a risk of injury is to have a poor night of sleep and then work out. It changes your body's ability to build muscle. It makes burning body fat far more difficult. There was a study that I brought up many times where they've had 2 groups, one group bad sleep, one group good sleep, both of them eating the same, both of them training, both of them in a calorie deficit. The group that got the poor sleep lost half as much body fat and twice as much muscle.
That's crazy.
Because of the poor sleep. It negatively affects your hormones. It also has a strong effect on cravings and behaviors. It increases things like negativity, depression, and anxiety. So it's like a totally big deal. And I think a lot of people are becoming aware of this because of the health space is now marketing heavily to it. But there's so much information that's out there. It's like, okay, well, what's going to make the biggest difference? What things are going to make the biggest difference on my sleep quality, on how my body feels after a night of sleep? Like, what are the things I can do that make the biggest difference? Because there's 50 things out there that everybody says helps. What makes the biggest difference?
I mean, I think step one, before even getting to the 5 or so that you listed, I really, because this isn't necessarily listed, is step one or first one is actually just care about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that seems silly to say that, but there's so little attention put towards it. We put so much emphasis on starting the day, right? What time you get up, your routine that you do, all the millionaire routines on what they do before, the cold plunging stuff there we're talking about. But there's very little conversations around what you do to get ready for bed. I mean, there's people talking about in marketing why sleep is important, but there's not a lot of attention. And so I would say that the first thing and the most impactful thing that you can do is to start to care about it.
Be more intentional.
Yes,
about
pay attention.
Process.
Start to pay attention. Like, do I have any patterns or do I have any sort of consistency or am I just totally inconsistent? Like, pay attention to it as step one.
If you're watching or listening to this right now, give yourself 30 days. Just say, for 30 days, I'm going to do the following 5 things. I'm going to make it a priority. And you will notice a substantial improvement in the quality of your life and how your body responds to workouts and your diet. So the first thing is, this is an easy one for a lot of people, is to manage the temperature of your bedroom. The data on this is very clear. For most people, between 60 to 65 degrees elicits the best sleep response, the best stages of sleep, the fastest fall asleep time, the least amount of inflammation, the lowest amounts of wake ups. This right here is an easy one for most people. If you have a temperature controlled home, set the temperature of your bedroom to 60 to 65 degrees. And, some people think that's cold, by the way, but the data shows that if you cover yourself with a blanket and the room is that temperature, you still seem to get that benefit. I think we all know that, right? That's why people feel so cozy in the winter, even though they're all bundled up. Just the temperature, 60 to 65 degrees. That's what the data says.
First to me is paying attention. When I started to pay attention to these things, this would be considered the first big rock for me of what made the impact. Was the temperature control. This is why 8 Sleep for me has been the single best investment for this talk right here. Talking about improving my sleep consistently. Nothing will impact it more than my temperature control. And
that's on your bed. That's your bed. So, and for some people don't have air conditioning or it's expensive. This is like, it goes on your bed.
Which is more effective because it's like you change. Like overnight, I remember having covers on and it would be like somewhere in the middle of the night where all of a sudden now my temperature increased. And even though like it was temperature controlled, like outside, like I had to throw the sheets off. I'd wake up. Like it was just like, I'm cold, I'm hot, I'm cold. And so to have it like regulated so it actually cools you down like from your bed was huge.
Well, and then I wish I could keep my house at 60. My wife would never let me keep the house.
Right. Especially if you have kids, little kids.
Yeah, my wife will not let me keep the house at 60. I would keep it at 60 degrees. I have no problem seeing my breath inside the house and walking around.
Well, I do, but yeah, my oldest hates it.
Yeah, Katrina does not. She wants it. And so that's why this 8 Sleep thing has been such a big game changer. So she can control her bed at whatever optimal temperature it is for her, and then mine does. And then, of course, the AI even adjusts to each person. But so this is one of the biggest rocks for me is getting that temperature under control, especially when you're married and you have different, you guys each like different temperatures. So it feels like someone's always suffering where you can control each side like that. Each person can get the.
But again, the data on this is pretty clear. This makes a big difference. Now, next up, I like this next one, although a lot of people are going to either cringe or shy away from it because it's not really about what you do. It's about what you probably shouldn't do. So when I looked at the data on caffeine and its impact on sleep, they did studies on caffeine before bed, which you would expect to have negative effects on your sleep, right?
Sure.
Then they same study 2 hours before, 4 hours before, 6 hours before. Guess what? All of them,
Same
including
quality.
6 hours before, had negative effects on sleep quality. Pronounced, measurable negative effects. So the advice is, and by the way, in this study, they used different degrees of doses. They stuck with the doses most people tend to consume. So when you look at the average caffeine consumer, it ranges between 200 milligrams a day to 400 milligrams a day. That's the range. That's what they did in the study.
That's considered average?
That's the average person.
God, I would think it's higher.
No, 200 to 400. So it's because you look at like 2 or 3 cups of coffee is about 300.
Yeah.
Right? So 200 to 400 milligrams a day.
We're just psycho, Adam.
Even 6 hours before.
I'm willing to bet, though, that number is on the rise.
Probably.
Look how popular energy drinks have become. Everybody's moving into that space, and the standard is 200 now.
Yep.
I mean, your average Celsius type of drink is 180 to minimum 200.
Kids stay up now playing video games if they hang out with their buddies and they're drinking these caffeinated drinks, and it's like it's unfortunately it's an unfortunate part of the culture, but it's there.
Yeah, I bet that research is old stuff on that. I would guess
it's
that
on the rise for sure.
We're on the rise.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But now what the studies show is you need to have, if you're going to have caffeine, have it a minimum 8 hours before bed.
Yeah.
Minimum. Probably 10 hours is ideal because caffeine has a half-life, meaning you lose the feeling of the effects, but it's still circulating your system and it still will impact the quality of your sleep. So probably 10 hours before. Now here's what's crazy. As I'm reading the study, the authors in there write about the average time people like to consume caffeine aside from first thing in the morning, and it's late in the afternoon. It's to fight that late afternoon
We bonk.
energy slump that people get,
Terrible
which is
idea.
within the 6 hours or so, or 8 hours before bed. Now, why does this happen? It's a negative cycle. They consume caffeine too late. It affects their sleep, even though they get to bed on time, even though they wake up and they're like, oh, this was about 8 hours. The sleep quality wasn't great because of the caffeine. Now they bonk again at 3 p.m. and they have to repeat the dose every single day, not knowing the caffeine is the root cause of the issue. In fact, if you have sleep issues and you go to an expert, the first question they will ask revolves around caffeine intake.
Yeah.
It's the first question. And what's interesting about this, caffeine is a drug. It's quite addictive, people don't like to touch this one. I've talked to so many clients with sleep issues, and when I bring up caffeine, they're like, no, that's not bothering me. I just have it first thing in the morning.
Let's talk about something else.
So, a lot of people with sleep issues, the caffeine at 6 a.m. is affecting their sleep.
Yes.
Eliminate that and watch what happens.
I mean, I can't have it past noon. If I have a drop of it past noon, it's affecting it. And the further past noon, the more it's affecting it. And I would make the argument that even the stuff I have early in the day makes somewhat of an impact. It's not as bad. I know that if it's past noon, I'm disrupting my sleep for sure. I think I'd get even more optimal sleep when I'm caffeine free.
Well, and I mean, and then there's the other class of clients that I get, which isn't mentioned on here, but you get the caffeinated mornings, but then at night you have to take yourself down with a glass of wine or alcohol, and the alcohol itself, I mean, is detrimental to your sleep pattern. So
it wrecks.
It has no room in there.
It'll knock you out.
And most people don't know that because they think because the alcohol helps them fall asleep.
Yeah, because
it relaxes you,
but they don't realize that it disrupts the quality of their sleep. And so you're trading, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul in this situation.
A glass or two of wine before bed turns an 8-hour sleep period into the quality of what you would get with good quality 6 hours. That's how much of an impact it has on your sleep. Hey, sorry to interrupt. We have a free guide titled Understanding Your Mood, Stress, and Sleep. It tackles all of those things from a health and longevity perspective. It's a totally free guide. So just click on the link at the top of the description below. Yeah. Next up, this is one that's interesting, and the data on this is very cool. For many people, the last meal of your day, if it has a decent amount of easily digestible carbohydrates, and I said easily digestible because any food that you eat that affects your digestion will give you negative sleep. But if you have, like, for me, white rice is very easy to digest, okay? Potato, very easy to digest. When they show in studies, when people have a nice carb portion with their dinner, it improves or lengthens the REM stage of sleep. And it has to do with the way that the insulin response affects things like melatonin production, tryptophan intake into the brain. It literally improves your brain's ability to get to sleep better. So for some people who are like, oh, no, I only eat carbs in the morning and I don't eat them later on in the day, and you have sleep issues, you might actually benefit from having your carbs later in the day.
No, I never understood, but was this part of like the whole carb backloading approach?
No.
Like I don't know anything about that.
No, backloading was a bodybuilder
thing.
Yeah, that had to do with
it was a theory of you like getting all those nutrients before you go to bed so your body can recover and build muscle while you're sleeping. Yeah. And also just a strategy of some people like it post versus the pre their stuff, right? Instead of getting it early in the day, you get it in the backside of the day.
Now, I identified this carbohydrate one for myself.
This was a baby hack, by the way. Did you know? This was a baby hack, by the way.
Why?
Back in like the 80s and like back, I know
they give their kids.
They give their kids. So if you had a baby that had a hard time sleeping, one of the like hacks they tell you to do is do like cereal or rice like in the milk, so it would carb load them a little bit before bed, and then the baby would sleep longer at night.
I identified this one for myself because if I had too many carbs in the morning, I'd feel kind of sluggish. But if I had them for dinner, I'd sleep real good. And I just noticed that for myself. Didn't know that this was a common thing, but now there's data to support this. Next up, this one right here, when I've had clients do this one consistently, and we do this ourselves, we really try to do this. It sounds silly, but it makes a huge difference. And we can go into the science of blue light, electric light coming from the ceiling has an effect on melatonin production. The brain thinks the sun is still out and blah, 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 blah. I think we've all heard this, but try it yourself. About an hour or two before bed, use candlelight and read paper books. And here's what's funny. Back in the day, you know what people used to do in bed? Everybody used to do this in bed. We used to read books in bed.
By candlelight.
And when you read books in bed, I remember this, reading books as a kid.
Read something extra boring.
It would put you to sleep.
Yeah.
You know what we read now in bed? Electronic tablets. Does the opposite. It keeps you stimulated. Paper book, candlelight. So we do candlelight, or we do Himalayan salt lamps, which are, and also the angle of light. If light is coming from above your head, it has a stimulatory effect. If it's down low, especially if it's red or glowing red, like Himalayan salt lamps, it doesn't have the same effect.
Oh, that's interesting because it probably emulates like a fire. Huh?
That's the theory, but it's true. Again,
there's just something so calming too about like a fire, the red glow, amber, and stuff like that. Like that relaxes you and brings you right.
By the way, it's a hack for parents too. If your kids get riled up and it's hard to get them to bed, for an hour before, and they love it. Kids love it.
The lights.
They think it's fun. Turn the lights off, light some candles around the house, or like I said, Himalayan salt lamps is what we use. They're a little safer because I have a 4-year-old that would run to the. I'm sure he would run to a candle, knock it over. And it calms the kids down too, and they think it's fun because it's dark, and they go to sleep much easier too. So it's an easy one. Lastly, now this is a fitness one, and this one has to do with your central nervous system. There is a form of activity that calms the central nervous system down. That's actually one of the fundamental characteristics of this activity, and it's static stretching. So a static stretch is when you hold a stretch for a long period of time, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So it'd be like if I'm sitting on the floor and I'm stretching my hamstrings, or I'm holding a quad stretch, or I'm holding a pec stretch or something like that. Hold the stretch, deep breathe while you're doing it, because if you hold your breath, that actually excites the central nervous system. The reason why you get more flexible within the stretch, we've all done this, right? You go to touch your toes, you hold it. And as you hold it, all of a sudden you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. The central nervous system is relaxing its grip on your muscles. And if you do this throughout your whole body while deep breathing, the entire central nervous system starts to relax. This is the effect of a good relaxing deep tissue massage. So if you've ever had a deep tissue massage, yes, it puts you to sleep. But you have to combine it with deep breathing.
Best year of my life.
Yep. the first year
memories.
you were
Still remember that year. I still remember that year, dude.
Now I'm stretching for my hips, dude, because I feel it in the morning, and it makes a difference. But it's like, it's annoying that there's new additions that I have to like ritualize. You know, it's like
it's a really nice ritual too. If you have 10 minutes before bed, would be to light candles, get on the floor. Do these stretches. Don't make it a workout. You hold the position, you breathe through it. And I like to do pigeon, hamstring, quad. I like to do lat, pec, and then I'm kind of done. And man, you lay in bed and it's like, oh, you're floating on that.
I mean, one thing, like in terms of the meals, like in terms of timing of your last meal, for me, it was a huge impactful.
Yeah, not right before bed.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just, I have to be able to digest that all before I go to bed, because it definitely impacted me.
Totally. The only thing that I might add to this, and I love the idea of probably doing it when you're doing your stretching or doing something where you're calming down, is adding some sort of a gratitude practice. Just because
we have a great way to go to sleep.
We have so much anxiety and stress that people talk about, and one of the things, those two just won't live in your head at the same time.
Yeah, wasn't there a study, Adam?
There was.
Where you can't be grateful and what was it? Scared at the same time?
Yeah, it's not scared. They occupy the same. It's not scared. It's
another negative feeling.
It's anxious, or if you have anxiety, right, like about something, it's impossible to be anxious and grateful at the same time. Like they both operate from the same part of the brain, and so if you basically take that time to shift it over into being grateful,
you won't be anxious.
You won't be anxious, and so. If you're like going through, and I think this is a good practice all the time, but let's say it's just been a very stressful day and you got a lot on your mind. I've tried to do this, like just, obviously we have days at work where they're more stressful than other. And so if I'm in bed and I know that my brain has a hard time shutting off the work stuff and I catch myself doing that, one of the best ways for me to shift that is to get away from thinking about work per se or whatever's stressing me out and move over into all the things I'm grateful for in my life. Pairing that with like your stretching or something like that, man, that's a great way to help.
That's a great way to stack them.
Yeah.
So did you guys, I got to say this because something just came out and we'll go over it here, but I got to say, man, here we are, 2025. I think conspiracy theorists are undefeated now for a while.
There's got to be a chart out there that we can refer to and point to. It's like, remember that, like, because there's so many that have come to fruition.
Oh my God.
It's I want to see how many we've notched off.
Just with diet and diet related stuff alone.
I know.
So many things have been proven, like fluoride came out. Oh yeah, by the way, it causes lower IQ in children. Exactly what the health people have been saying for probably 3 decades, and they were getting laughed at and told you're an idiot. No, the studies don't show that, blah, blah, blah.
Is this the FDA and red dye?
Red dye, bro.
Yeah, I just saw this come up.
Let me bring this up.
So it's official now, right?
Yes, it is official.
Well, officially banned it.
Fluoride, there's progress there as well.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna pull up a link and kind of read to you what happened here. So US bans red food dye. You ready for this? Why are they banning it? What's the possible health risk, Doug? What do you think it is?
I don't know, cancer.
Cancer. Possible cancer risk. Do you know what's annoying about this? It's more than annoying. It's even more than annoying. It's annoying because, first off, those people in the health space were like, probably avoid artificial dyes. They were getting laughed at, told you're wrong. It's totally safe. Don't worry about it. So not only were they wrong, but it's cancer. And then here's the thing. What kind of foods, let me ask you this. What category of foods probably has the most artificial dyes or red dyes?
Processed.
Okay, and kids.
Kids food.
Go down the food aisle of children's foods. It's all children's foods.
And then all the stuff they're discovering with, like baby food that they found in terms of toxic chemicals. It just, it makes me mad.
They banned it in cosmetics for a while ago because of thyroid cancer. Now they're showing that, it might be causing cancer in people as well. It makes me sad because kids' snacks and treats and stuff like that, I mean, they're all full of, full of these things.
They need the bright colors to sell them. I mean, that was a big thing. I remember going down the grocery aisle, especially with cereal, you're just like, wow, super bright colors.
And what's hella crappy about this is that Europe, Japan, and I don't know who else, banned it a while ago. Maybe, Doug, you can find out, when did Europe ban artificial food dyes? If you look at like processed cereals, like Trix or something like that, and you look at the ingredients, they use like beet extract and stuff in Europe. Meanwhile, we're over here still using these crazy dyes. So they banned them for a little while.
Yeah.
You pull up when they did that, Doug?
Yeah, they've been privy to
So they haven't banned them all.
But red dye.
Red dye, number 3, is that?
Yeah, that's the one. Red dye number 3. Which at this point, I'm going to say this right now. At this point, I will say quite confidently, you should avoid all dyes. I think it's a matter of time before we come out and figure
1994.
Europe, 1994, 34 years ago, 30-something years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah, we're a little
Wild they
behind
would be
out
that
here.
far behind.
Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
Yeah. This whole time. So this whole time, who knows what kind. Now, I notice with my kids that they get hyperactive if I give them stuff with red dye, in particular my daughter, my 2-year-old. I told you guys a story when we were in Arkansas visiting family, and we gave her Tylenol, and it was the red Tylenol, it's cherry flavored. And we give it to her. You know, a kid has a fever and they're not feeling good. You give them Tylenol, you expect within an hour they're going to be able to go to sleep.
Why the hell?
And she became hyper and weird.
Why the hell are you using red dye in a medicine like that?
To encourage palatability. You make your kid take it.
Does it really make that big of a difference?
Maybe the people
Has your
who buy
kid
it,
ever looked at how deep of red or purple or green or every color you've ever seen of medicine and been like, oh, that doesn't even make sense to me?
That's a good question, Adam. I wonder if it's just standard procedure, like it's cherry flavored, therefore we have to make it red. You know
Extra
what I mean?
red, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Which is so terrible, because it's like if that's something that's been banned since '94 in Europe, and I'm over here and I'm making children's red Tylenol, it's like, hey guys, it could be a little orange.
Yeah.
You know, like,
or how about we just leave it?
Yeah. Or let's not call it cherry. Let's call it something
Or
else.
call it cherry, but it doesn't have to look like a cherry.
Yeah,
Like
clear.
like who cares? No, I mean, it's so weird to me that you would even make that decision.
Dude, I'm so grateful that, you know, I'm very aware of these things, but my wife is hyper aware. I mean, she's a mom. She loves health also. And she picks these things out. And my daughter was hyper and weird. We were laughing with her. I'm like, what is going on? Why is she acting weird? I thought it was a Tylenol. I'm like, maybe she just reacts to Tylenol. And it wasn't until like weeks later when I'm like, I don't remember, I was at the pharmacy. I saw dye-free. Like, what do they sell dye-free? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Sure enough, next time she was sick, dye-free Tylenol, totally fine. It's the freaking red dye. And I've seen it with gummy bears, or there's some colors that will use red dye to make a different color. So it's not just red stuff. You have to kind of look at the label.
So weird.
I know. So frustrating. But yeah, they just freaking banned it. And we were lied to this whole time. So I you know, all of the, I want to say this too, all of the science, you know, I back the science and the data, and they tend to oppose the quote unquote natural people who say, no, it's best to go natural. And they'll make fun of them. They'll say things like, well, everything's a chemical. What do you mean avoid chemicals? You know, your apples are made of chemicals. And they try and make those stupid arguments.
Yeah.
Like F you. Like F you. Like you're better off avoiding artificial anything. Not because it's always bad, but natural probably isn't.
I've always thought that was the way to argue that is
annoying.
You know, less of the fear mongering and just more of the like, man, the goal should just be, let's try and eat everything naturally. Now, the reality is there's going to be the time that they just have. But if you at least as a parent set the goal as I'm gonna try and always give my kid whole foods and that, versus just defaulting to, oh, the science says it's safe and it's fine, I'm just gonna eat what all processed, box, packaged, red dyed, everything. It's like, I don't know, man. I'm gonna go the other. I'm gonna go whole food natural as much as I possibly can.
Well, it's funny because you put on the notes the cakes. Like I brought in, some food Courtney's been making.
No, you brought in cupcakes.
Cupcakes.
He had like
You brought
4
cupcakes?
Hold on.
Yeah, he didn't see
Hold
me
on.
eat some
Hey,
cupcakes.
while you were doing our meeting, and you were like in a good heated conversation with the potential sponsor, Kyle's sitting there. I'm sitting right here. Justin pulls out a bag. And I'm not making this up. He eats like 4 cupcakes in a row,
It was
bro.
3.
3 cupcakes
In a row, dude. And Kyle and I looked at each
that
other.
his wife put in there for each of us to have.
Hey, why don't
he
you
ate
share
for-
them, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then he
because
ate it
you
for-
guys, you fatties are all scared of
wait,
a few calories. Like,
Oh, look how I reversed it. We're the fatties for not eating cupcakes, bro.
Yeah. Ooh, my little girly
had- I
figure.
didn't know you had cupcakes.
Bro, he ate, okay, fine, 3 in a row. He was just crushing the cupcake.
No, I've actually, because I've my justification.
There's no red dye in
is,
it, you know?
It's super natural. It's actually
You
what
said it
she
was
does.
sourdough, right?
Sourdough. She's been going crazy with this, like, because too. It's funny. We had just talked about a similar conversation, not about red dye, but like everything else. I'm always the conspiracy guy, and I'm like telling her, oh, babe, this, and we get xenoestrogens over here and this, and I'm like, look into all the beauty products, and she looked into it. She's like, oh my god, she was terrified.
Yeah.
She's making everything herself now.
Even her cosmetics?
Yes,
How do you
all her
make cosmetics?
dude. You'll have to ask her, but like it's a whole process, and it's cool, and I applaud it, but also it's annoying because like I just want to spend time, and she's over here just like like making
chemist?
like in the kitchen.
Now,
Making,
does
I'm like,
it-
is this for your face? Is this what are you concocting now?
Does it look good, or does it look like she like rubbed strawberry on her?
Yeah, some of it looks a little wild, but that's honestly like it. She does like lotions, she does soaps, like all that kind of stuff is going ham with it. But so I'm trying to kind of encourage her efforts because it takes a lot of effort to make all this shit from
Plus, you guys
scratch.
benefit. You and your kids benefit.
Yes,
from
and
that stuff, yeah.
we have been, and we eat a lot of really healthy food that's like grown like in our backyard or from the local farmer, and like she's just like 100% all in on being the organic, crunchy chick, mountain lady that I've created.
It's awesome.
For her. But so I ate that, and it was our lemons that are in our yard, and then she had some like gluten-free, flour with that, and so I was like, whatever, dude.
Was there frosting on them, or were they?
It was
There were
frosting.
frosting. There was frosting. Hey, he's a grown man.
Homemade frosting. I mean frosting.
He's a 45.
It's not even my birthday.
He's a grown man with a beard. He's over here. He was eating cupcakes.
Bro,
with
that's a
frosting.
move I would do right there.
I was
Yeah,
like,
order
fuck,
some-
I'm gonna eat all of them.
Or some dessert.
Kyle and I were looking at
cupcake.
each other. Man, she loves you, dude. She gives you 3 cupcakes to take to work.
I
Well,
think
that
those
was
were
nice.
for, I
What a
really
great-
think those were for us. I think that was like, hey, bring these to
I
your
think
coworkers.
you're probably right. I just
Yeah.
assumed that it was for me.
It's like, these must be all for me.
You ate our cupcakes. That's hilarious.
She's always making me bring sourdough.
That's so
bread.
awesome. So
But
she's
yeah.
doing all this stuff.
I want to do that, dude. So the new place, our new spot has 2 raised gardens already built on it. So my new goal is when I get into that place.
Do you like to plant stuff? You ever done that before? Besides weed.
Yeah, it's good. I
forgot about that.
I'm pretty good at some of this stuff. You know what I'm
forgot.
saying?
Yeah, you are a plant
I mean,
man.
yeah. Well, supposedly it's identical to growing tomatoes, so I should be pretty good at growing tomatoes. They say. But we'll see. I mean, that's a personal goal of mine because I really want to do that. And so we'll see what I start with. I've got quite a few family and friends that already do it, so I have plenty of people to pull from for advice. I don't want to commit to something I'm not going to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, this is not me.
So my dad grows. So he's got a little track home in San Jose, right? But his
He's
entire
maxed out.
backyard.
Yeah, he's maxed out
it's
that
everything.
backyard.
And the things that I like the most from his yard: tomatoes from the yard, amazing.
Yeah.
He also has these green beans. They're really long and skinny. And my mom makes them with olive oil, and they're so good. So I love those. And then zucchini. Those are the 3 things that.
Does he have, dude? So we grow these carrots, and they're almost spicy. I'm like, do carrots normally taste like this? It's like so nutrient dense that you're just like, it's like mineral. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
That's one of the cool parts when you actually eat from an organic, garden, and you compare it to some of the grocery store foods you had. I'll never forget
They don't look nearly as pretty.
The first time I had homegrown organic tomatoes. I've never liked tomatoes really. Tomatoes have always been like, I'm the guy like you order a burger, no tomatoes. I don't care for tomatoes. I don't absolutely hate them, but I just never liked them.
They have no flavor.
And they were mushy and weird, so it's always been like a thing I don't like. And then I remember my mom's husband who has an organic garden, and she raves about his tomatoes. You got to have his tomatoes. I'm like, I'm not really a tomato guy. Just try them. And it didn't even taste like a tomato. It was like a fruit, dude. It was so rich and flavorful. I remember Katrina and I went on this kick after we got a bunch of them. We would just eat them, just straight tomatoes by themselves. Slice them up, drizzle a little olive oil or something on them.
Salt.
Yeah. Oh man, and just eat straight. Salad, and I'm like never in my life, but it's because the ones at the store do not taste like this, even where near the same.
When Jessica was pregnant with Aurelia, she would eat caprese with the sliced buffalo cheese, tomatoes, the basil. Good. She would crush that several times a day. Do you guys have any fruit cheese? Do you guys like fruit?
Yeah.
What do you have?
Yeah, a bunch. So, I mean, anywhere from plums, oranges, lemons, limes, apples.
Do you have an apple tree?
Apples, yeah. I have 2 apple trees.
No way.
Yeah.
They produce a lot of apples?
They do. It obviously seasonal, but like, yeah, so we harvested them. And that's the thing too. She makes a lot of her recipes off of what's like fruiting at the time.
Great.
And so, yeah, we just, and so she gets a little creative.
Dude, my son eats, I'm not exaggerating, okay? He'll eat at least 4 apples a day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. That's
at least. Because we have, so the way that my wife's broken down foods for the little ones to understand is we have anytime foods and we have sometimes foods.
Yeah.
Anytime foods are foods you can, you want one? You can have one. You can eat as much as you want. Yeah. Well, apples are an anytime food. So this kid just crushes. He absolutely loves them.
Sweet.
He eats them all. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, I have a free guide that teaches you how to lose fat in 3 steps, just 3 steps that will burn the most amount of body fat and help keep it off. This guide is totally free. We're giving it to everybody right now. If you want it, click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show. Speaking of food, I got to show you guys, there was a study I brought up or I found on fake meat. Yeah. So,
okay.
Now you guys remember the whole like...
Isn't that dying down a bit? In terms of their momentum, yeah.
Thank God it is. You remember what everybody's like, it's a better option because it's plant-based, even though it's like 50 ingredients, whereas meat is just meat.
Yeah.
It also has the identical same amount of macros, so you can't even argue that it's like lower calorie or higher protein. It's not. If anything, it's lower protein, same calories, higher fat, whatever. But here's what they found in this research. So this is out of the University of Surrey. This was on Science News and Science Daily on December 17th. Researchers found that vegetarians who consumed these types of foods, which are essentially, they call them plant-based meat alternatives, okay? They had a, ready for this?
Yeah.
42% increased risk of depression. Compared to vegetarians who did not eat.
Now, is that just purely because you're depressed because you're eating a fake burger? Because I feel like I would be crying eating an Impossible Burger too. Oh, I miss my
No.
That does make me sad.
No, there's something. They're just highly processed. So the people who consume these had higher blood pressure, higher C-reactive protein levels. They had worse cholesterol levels. They had higher risk of irritable bowel syndrome. You know, these plant-based meat products are some of the most engineered frankenfood
like ultra
things.
Processed.
Think about it. You're literally taking a plant and you're using like cutting-edge science to make it appear, taste, and feel like meat. Like that's about as processed as it gets. Yeah. So in this study,
I love how they have to inject it with like some beet. Just
make it bloody.
To make it look like it's like bleeding.
Isn't that weird?
It's what's weird to me.
Association, I guess.
That you're a vegan, but you're like, I still want
to bleed.
I still want to pretend like I'm eating an animal.
Yeah, I love animals. But,
I'm confused.
I'm
confused.
Here's a sandwich. It looks
dying
like a human.
vegetables.
Yeah. I don't eat.
I like
humans.
my vegetables dead.
I don't eat humans, but I like to pretend like I'm eating a human. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's going on.
I mean, the last I had seen on Impossible Burger and some of that, I mean, their stock had really dropped. Do you know how it is? Can you look up that, Doug, how they're doing? Like they were.
It was all hype.
It took a
it was on a rocket ship for a minute there.
It was propped up too.
And then it really kind of leveled out, and then it kind of fell off a cliff.
You know, when it comes to, I'll say this: we're not like investment experts, but when it comes to health and fitness, if you want to know whether or not something's going to do well, you just look to us because we know right away when there's a fake trend.
Yeah.
And when that exploded, we were just like, no, it's going to tank.
Yeah.
Sure enough,
Eventually it will.
Yeah. What does it say there, Doug?
Yeah, I'm getting a look at it here.
It's funny though, like it's funny how many of these things that
It's gone down substantially.
things that government props up that puts these fake, like, I mean, you're seeing this with electric cars right now too. You can get like a Tesla Plaid for like 50 grand these days. It's crazy. It's crazy because and what that is the aftermarket. Someone buys it, drives it for a year or two like that, tries to sell it.
How much is a brand new Plaid?
Like over 100.
What?
Yeah. You can get like
So
a
is
year,
that one-
you get like a 1 year old one for like 50 something.
No way.
Yes, dude.
So the
I thought about
used
it.
EVs isn't like I haven't even looked at that market.
If
Like
you,
that's probably
if you were thinking
not a
about
thing.
buying it, like I've considered it as one of my vehicles is having an AV. And the Plaid is
Bro, you collect
crazy.
cars like baseball cards. Though.
Super
Just to have one?
fast. Super fast.
They're super fast.
Very
Yeah.
very fast.
Oh,
And
Neck
cool,
breaker.
right? They're cool. But nobody wants them, and they were made. There's a million of them. They made so many of them, and you can get them anywhere. And they were so incentivized early on with all these government incentives that they pumped tons of them out. Tons of people bought into it. Same thing with the Tesla truck. Tesla truck is dropping. It's falling off a cliff.
Is it really?
Yeah, people were overpaying for it to get it early on.
Now, how are new car sales for Tesla trucks? Is it you're just talking about resale, right?
the price of resale is way down?
Okay.
Yeah. You can.
But how are new sales?
I don't know what the new sale.
You know, what's
EV
tough
market
is we live in the Bay Area, so this is like a weird market.
I know it's all Tesla.
I
here.
see
All-
Teslas or like everywhere, and I see Tesla
It's the
trucks
new Honda Civic, you know,
all the
it's
time.
like
All the time,
everywhere.
I see like 10 a day. Every single day.
Yeah, they're everywhere now. I mean, they're flooded. They sold a ton of them. You look it up. I don't remember how many they made, but they made a lot of them. So, and they were so hot and cool, and now they're not so hot and cool. But the whole car market right now is finally leveling out. Remember, we went through that whole COVID, can't make chips. Everything was inflated. There was people that were
affected it big time.
I mean, you heard stories of people selling used cars for more what they bought them brand new. I mean, you had all kinds of craziness going on right now.
I wish we'd have gone into
We've gone back to reality where
what is the quarter mile on the Plaid? Is that 10? Does it hit 10 seconds?
I think it might be.
Really?
Yeah, it might be 10.
No.
Yeah,
I know that 0 to 60 is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's fast. See what?
8.7 seconds.
What?
Yeah, it's fast, bro.
That's what the Corvette.
Oh no,
what
it'll
is it?
beat
The
that.
zero.
It'll beat the ZR1. It'll beat a ZR1. It'll beat almost anything out there. I mean, it's
That's got to be an
pure
interesting.
torque, like
that's got to be
it's-
an interesting experience to feel that.
yeah,
Because I've been in.
it puts you in
they'll
your back
push you
seat.
through the seat. Yeah.
I've been in one.
I've been in a 10-second. No, I have been. I've been in a 9-second. Yeah, so I guess I have felt it. It gives you the funny feeling in your stomach.
Yeah.
It's electric power is different feeling though.
Yeah.
It's like you vacuum you back type of deal, and you don't really hear much.
I wonder if it's like because when I was like doing the F-16, where it was fast, but then once it went vertical, it was like
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure it doesn't feel like that.
no,
Yeah, so I think
Justin, what did you say the electric cars run on?
just queefs.
oh my god.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Doug was waiting for that one. Doug say please.
I want to go back to Beyond Meat.
That's what it said.
Wait, tell me what's going on with
I'm
it.
still talking about
So
it.
back in 2019, their top price was $234 a share.
234.
234.
And through 21 and then into 22, it was up in the, $124 to $170 a share. It is now trading about $3.60 a share.
Wow.
There you go.
Billions lost.
Oh, God, what a terrible.
200 and something.
You know what?
A share down to $4
we should have
a
put. You
share.
know what we should have done because we knew this
Shorted
would
it?
happen. We should have shorted it.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, it's just interesting.
What does that
'cause
mean?
Wasn't there a bunch of celebrities? Yeah, what does that mean?
That's when you bet it going down.
I feel like there's a few big time celebrities that opened up chains of just the Beyond Meat as their main offering, and
Yeah.
that has to
LA.
hurt.
celebrities. They always
They
do
know
smart
Yeah,
business.
They're
idea.
the best.
Yeah. Wow. That's embarrassing.
Dude, I have something. I have a cool news thing to share with you guys that I
All
just
right,
saw. I've always wondered this too. Like, why do we not? And I know that flying is safer than driving, right? Like when
Statistically, right.
yeah, statistically, people that die from whatever
yeah,
like
because
that.
you don't fly every day.
Right. But I mean, planes go down, they crash, and people die. I've always wondered why we all don't have a parachute. It just has always been weird to me.
Like everybody just has one.
I mean, we got a floating device underneath their seat. I'd much rather have a parachute under there. So when that thing's going down, open that
Can you
fucking
imagine wearing a parachute while you're in the
Yeah, why do
No,
they
you
have
don't
that in the
wear it,
small
you-
planes but not the big ones?
Yeah,
That's a good
on the big
question.
ones, why not it be under your seat, and then if the plane's going down, you can put it on and then get out
All right,
the
it's
plane.
been fun and just
The
jump.
problem is getting out of the plane.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're going to lose a couple of us on the way out, probably. But it
Your
wouldn't be
chances
safe.
are a lot
But
better,
I-
though.
yeah,
Most of you on
But
the
if
way
a
out.
plane is going down,
Well, then
I would
just-
want the opportunity to try and jump out than to stay in it. That's for sure.
Somebody came up with an invention. So it's funny you say that. Someone had invented a plane, a large commercial plane. I don't think it's been produced.
You might be going where I'm going to talk about right now because
where the cabin.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's
so.
the one.
This is coming.
That's
so
the one.
this is
It is
so-
coming.
So this is coming where the cabin detaches from the
And it has a
engine,
big parachute.
and then it has double parachutes to go out, and then the cabin comes down. So they're working on.
You know what my
that.
worst nightmare is? Can I just tell you my worst nightmare?
That
If
makes sense.
I'm on a plane over the ocean,
I know, goes
just
down.
crash.
Oh.
I don't want to float down and then land in the middle of the ocean
And get eaten
just,
by sharks?
No, and wait for a wave. Like no, just crash. I'm
There
cool
are
with
some
that.
horror stories about that.
I feel
though.
the
If you look
chances
into
of
it.
you landing on the ocean are probably pretty slim too.
What do you mean? Planes go over the ocean all the time.
I know landing on the ocean.
Oh,
landing.
I mean
Not-
just
not
go.
just
Just I'm saying just
crashing
crash
to your death.
I don't want to float in the middle of the Pacific and just sit there and wait for a shark to.
But
eat
my
me.
point is, you're probably not going to survive the crash.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
That's
my
the reason.
point.
That's my point of the parachutes and stuff like that. Is like I think the percentage of living after a plane goes down and crashes is very low. Like if it's going down, most people die.
But is there anything?
So it's like
Yeah.
you know, at least carry some
Did you ever
parachutes.
hear
on it.
about, like,
and hey, at least first class. I should be able to buy.
only first class?
That's all fucked up, right? I mean, I paid hell of money for that ticket. I should at least get a fucking parachute.
Only first class gets a parachute.
Get a glider.
That would go over well. Oh man, I'm sorry, guys.
I got coach, damn it.
Sorry, we
use
can't
my
fit
sleeping
100
bag.
in here, but we can fit 6.
That's messed up, dude.
You guys ever heard about, like, back in the day, whalers? So they used to go out, I guess, and then knowing that there's this code that, like, a lot of times they would track these whales and try and, like, because you had to, like, harvest the whales back in the day for their fat, so that way it could
Make
they
oil.
could make oil for lamps, and that's like half the time you had light was because of, like, whale oil,
Right.
and so it was like this big commodity. So anyway, big business there. So I guess, like, they had this whole code that, like, basically if you got stuck out there at sea and you had no land in sight and forever, like, it was a certain amount of days before they would start, like, picking apart the person that they were going to eat. And so they would actually, like, qualify it, and there was all these rules about how they would do it,
No.
which part of their body they'd eat first, and, like,
What?
all this kind of stuff. Yeah, this is all, like, in maritime laws that they created.
They
And I
actually
was
had a law?
what? It was, well, I don't know about laws, but like
a rule.
a code. Yeah.
Let me guess. The kid that sweeps the deck. He's first.
Yeah, I don't know.
we'll eat him
we should
first.
look that
Oh,
up. But I was just tripping out. I was like, can't believe, like, they
that was a thing.
anticipated this, and it did happen.
Reminds me of cartoon. Remember in cartoons when the cartoon characters are like stranded and then he's looking at his buddy and all of a sudden he looks like a cheeseburger?
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me funny, John?
Oh, dude, like, that's horrible, man. Like, no thanks.
Well, that movie, what was that movie about was it the soccer team that crashed in the Andes?
Yeah.
And they actually did have to eat each
Alive.
other.
Wasn't that what it's called? Alive. Right?
Wow. In the past, the custom of the seas allowed shipwrecked sailors to eat the corpses of their companions if there wasn't enough food. This practice was considered acceptable if the survivors drew lots to fairly decide who would be sacrificed.
Yeah.
However, if it was eventually criminalized, well, thank goodness. Thank God.
We don't like Bob. He's an asshole. He's getting eaten first.
Why'd you invite that guy? He's a little heavy. Shh, don't worry about it. He's our insurance
He'll be
policy.
tasty.
That's crazy.
He'll feed us well. That, you got to imagine, because back in those days, they were on those ships out to sea for a long time, right? Months.
Oh, yeah.
They were for months sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So you have a ship, a wooden ship. There's no electricity.
Yeah.
And you've got, how many men were on one of those ships? 20, 30?
More than that.
Yeah,
50?
probably more than
Yeah,
that. It
probably
depends
that.
on the size.
So you got a bunch of men on a boat in the ocean for months.
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of weird shit. That's not a place you'd want to be.
No,
at all.
And you're just at the whim of the tides and the winds and the weather. So yeah.
Well, I mean, did they rely mostly on the food that they caught to live off of? Was that
they brought salted meats? Lots of meat that would be heavily salted, and that's what they.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what they would live off of.
Storage, but
yeah, dude. Well,
around 650 men.
A warship.
That's in a warship. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see about cargo ship.
How long would they stay out to sea in these like 17th and 18th century ships? Because it would drive you mad.
I think.
It would be months, right?
Yeah.
That would drive you crazy. Yeah. 20 to 60 men.
So that's a good guess.
Yeah,
We guessed that, right? Is that what we said,
Some
50?
of them up to 100 men. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's no thanks. I would have never signed up for that. Not a Brazilian.
I know it's not worth it.
No way. I'll just chill right here and be a farmer.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. Did you know I pulled up studies, by the way? I brought up studies on red light therapy and fat loss. Did you guys know that there's been several studies that have shown that people will lose a moderate amount, it has a moderate effect on fat loss and losing inches? Red light therapy.
Is that just because of the improvement in their mitochondria? So
That's the guess.
Yeah,
that's what they guess.
It's running it more efficiently, and
So they're actually targeting areas like the waist and back of the arms and stuff with targeted red light therapy.
oh wow.
To reduce like the size and appearance of fat on the body.
Are you guys seeing more of it and more of it pop up in television?
Yeah.
I'm seeing it now in television.
Is
now.
Joovv, have you seen
different versions
Joovv on
of it.
Oh, I don't know if I've actually seen their brand pop up per se, as I've seen like other products. That's a good question. They're always like they're not highlighting the brand or highlighting the product. You just see like this, and it's typically some show or there's somebody very successful that's like doing it before they have either the mask that they're wearing or they're
It's because it works.
Oh yeah.
For skin appearance,
it's interesting
It's
because-
visible. You can see it within weeks.
Well, what I think is interesting about it is, one, when we first got introduced to it, it was really interesting to see how much research had gone into it for
Decades.
a long time. And it's really only started to get popular recently.
Yeah, you still have a lot of companies that release, that put out a crappy product that doesn't use the same wavelength or strength that you find in studies.
So my prediction, Sal, sorry to interrupt you, but this is also why it's taken so long to get popular, is because there's enough crappy products that the average consumer doesn't know. They are, red light. My friend told me all this great stuff about it. So I bought this one on Amazon. I'm using it, and this works like crap. And so then there's enough people going like,
it's a total scam.
that think it's a scam or a hoax, because there's a lot of grifters and companies that are producing red lights that aren't producing the same wavelength as like the medical grade ones, which significantly different. I had some family members that bought one, and it was supposed to be quote unquote a good red light company, but it was like 1/4 of the power of a Joovv light. And you think about that, if it's 1/4 the power, you got to do 4 times the amount of time in front of it in order to see the benefits. Well, and what does Joovv recommend? Like 3 times a week at 20 minutes or whatever like that, or 10 or 15 minutes. So you got to spend an hour in front of it just for it to match that.
Exactly.
No one's doing that.
Exactly.
And so no wonder you're not getting the results from it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on.
Did I tell you guys about, I'm trying to find it. It was a woman who, here it is. This has been making the rounds. So a scientist had cancer. So because it was not a good cancer, I believe it was breast cancer. Here he goes. After learning in 2020 that she had a 3rd reoccurrence of breast cancer following a mastectomy. So she had both breasts removed. This is and it came back a 3rd time. This scientist researched oncolytic virotherapy. Do you know what she did? She got a virus, injected it into her cancer tumor. The virus provokes an immune response. This is experimental science, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
It provokes an immune response, and she cured herself.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. I've literally heard recently how they were trying to treat cancer and other viruses with viruses. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, and they've been having great results.
So this is
theory
all,
behind it?
Don't do this yourself.
So the theory is like you're creating a virus that goes and eats the cancer.
You're creating more like antibodies? Or?
No, it triggers an immune response.
Yeah.
So it infects the tumor. Then the body recognizes the virus, attacks the tumor cell, and because that's what you
You're
want.
localizing it.
Yes,
It's kinda
that's
like,
what you
hey,
want. You want your immune system to recognize.
Doesn't it feel like we're so close?
I know.
Yeah.
It feels like we're so close to solving the cancer thing, dude.
And
Yet
then
so
you got-
far too.
Well, then you got the conspiracy theorists. We said this earlier. They've been right so far. It would be really terrible if they were right on this one. But what conspiracy theorists say about cancer is it's too profitable to cure. It's too profitable.
So you know the counter argument.
Yeah,
to
the
that, right?
counter is if you can cure it, you're going to make
You're going to
bazillions
be
of dollars.
worth billions and trillions of dollars.
But now I've argued this with people before, people who are intelligent about this, and they're like, Sal, how much money do you think the industry makes just treating cancers? All of the treatments and
Trillions.
the chemos, it's got to be
Trillions.
right? Yeah. So,
but I mean, I think if you solve it, you're making trillions.
right. But then now imagine you're about to destroy that entire industry with a solution. Yeah. Are they going to get
Well,
it
that's
out?
where the lobbying and all that kind of plays in, I would think.
Yeah, dude.
From too, and you know, with the GLP-1s, I'm sure like eventually a lot of these like dialysis and a lot of these other like treatments for. You know, they're going to be affected by it and lobby, and we'll start seeing more pushback, I would think.
Did you guys by chance look into the show that Doug and I have been watching, the Day of the Jackal?
No.
So it's cool. Without spoiling the show, he's an assassin, which is not a spoiler. You figure that out right away. And one of the main guys he's trying to assassinate, the main person of at least the first season, is this guy that's releasing a product called River. And he's supposed to be like your tech. He's supposed to be like an Elon Musk type of character, and he's trying to save the world. And he's got this product that is supposed to expose how all money flows. So the average person can see how every company makes
pure transparency of all of their
interest. Yeah, and so of course you have these huge companies that are heavily vested in that not happening, and so he's supposed to go assassinate this guy. So it's definitely a cool premise. Good show. It's winning all kinds of awards, so it's definitely worth a watch if you guys haven't watched it. I know I brought it up again, but you guys talking about this reminds me of that, of like the conspiracy of enough power and money behind trying to make sure it doesn't get out. Here, that whole show is based on this guy is trying to.
When you have entire industries that would get destroyed by an invention, you got to be careful.
Corporate espionage is a real thing too. It's not a conspiracy.
No,
this is like it. I remember training my lady who's a high-level executive at Apple, and I would be on calls and Steve Jobs is on the other line. I have to like sign NDAs. I got, and they're so protective of their information. They have to be, because they'll take it and, somebody's going to run off with it and, make millions just off of like something else that they've created.
Have you seen where they store the formula for Coca-Cola? Have you guys seen that? Look that up, Doug.
No.
The vault where they store the.
Really?
There's a vault. Maybe I just saw social media. It might not be true. It looks like it's a vault where they store the original, like the formula for Coca-Cola.
Wait a second. That is even necessary? I would think where science is today, it would be so easy to reverse engineer that.
I mean, there's colas that exist, but do they taste
No.
like Coca-Cola?
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like if you really, they've trademarked it, so if you were to copy it completely, they would sue you.
Yeah, but how would they prove it? Is it true, Doug, or is it false?
It's more of a gimmick.
Okay.
Oh, it's
a world of Coca-Cola in
of course,
Georgia.
because of what I just said. You would easily be like, why would you try and protect something like that you're already protected legally by the patents?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
That's funny. I bet a lot of those formulas are not even.
It sounded hella cool at first. I was like,
well, look at the gimmicky vault. That's the one I saw. I saw that picture right there. So it's a vault at the World of Coca-Cola in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. It's an exhibit. All right, guys. So, hey, speaking of crap and stuff like that, I gotta tell you
this time.
I gotta tell you guys a funny story. My cousin he did all this like testing, this health testing, and he's sending his labs to I'm in a group with all my cousins.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of dudes that like to make fun of each other. That's what that whole thing. Anyway, he's sending them, and he's like, "Oh, look at this." He goes, "You guys, look up," because we always tease him because when we work out together, he's the weakest guy. He always is injured, right? So we tease him all the time. So he sends us like, "Look what this says," and it says his age was 25. I know him; he's 40, and I'm like, this is the most bullshit test I've ever seen in my entire life. He goes, "Why? It's a test. It tested 50 things. It says I'm 25." I'm like, "Do you feel like you're 25?" And I listed all of his literally previous complaints.
my achy knees,
like,
my
you're the worst
fatigue.
25-year-old I've ever met in my life, bro. Get the fuck out of here. There's a lot of these things that are out there. So your biological age, what is your DNA age? Shut up. They still don't know that science. No.
It's so funny.
Paleo Valley meat sticks are grass-fed. They're delicious. They're not dry. It's a high-protein snack on the go. You can put it in your bag. Doesn't need refrigeration. They taste amazing. Go check them out. Go to paleovalley.com/MindPump. On that link, you'll get an automatic 15% off. All right, back to the show.
First question is from Lori Beth 33. I work out from home and have limited weights. Will increasing my reps have a similar effect as increasing the weight?
Up to a certain point.
Yeah, temporarily.
Yeah, for when it comes to muscle hypertrophy, so they have good studies on this. Up to, I think it's around 30 reps, you will build as much muscle. Now, of course, there's caveats here, right? If you stay in the same rep range all the time, eventually you need to move out of it. But when they do studies on this, what they find is that high reps builds as much muscle as low reps, so long as the high rep set is intense. In other words, you activate more muscle fibers with heavy weight because you're exerting yourself with heavy weight. When you go to 25 reps, you have to train at a higher intensity, get closer to failure. This is what the studies show. You have to get closer to failure with the 20 rep set than you would with, let's say, an 8 rep set. So that yes is true. Now there are other ways you can increase the feel of the resistance.
Tempo change, yeah.
Tempo, bands.
Pause reps.
You can do some band stuff with the dumbbells to do that. You can do tempo stuff.
Pausing.
You could also go out and invest in some adjustable dumbbells too. Even though I prefer a rack and also that, but I mean, if I had a client and this is our limiting factor, they only have so much weights, I would say, come on, Lori. You know, maybe next Christmas, maybe ask for some adjustable weights.
At some point, it's
a worthwhile investment.
Totally. I've had clients like this that were consistent. They worked out for years on their own. They actually had good programming. And then they hired me, and I looked at the routine. I'm like, it's a decent routine, but your weights, your dumbbells went up to 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And just because I had barbells and heavier dumbbells, like they saw phenomenal changes in progress.
I mean, it's like giving a experienced carpenter a hammer and some nails and saying, build me a house. It's like, okay, well, those are some good tools, and I need that, but I could build a house. I could build a better one if you let me use all the tools. You know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of the same thing. It's like, I always used to laugh at my clients that here's what I have to work with. And they're like, they can afford to pay for me. And I'm like, well, you know, what's even better than me is like investing in some tools that you could definitely get a lot further with. And so I don't know, I would yes, there's definitely some things that we could do with the exact weights you have to increase intensity by slowing down the tempo, by doing higher reps, lots of cool stuff we can do. But eventually we probably would like to see you move heavier weight, and you're going to get great benefits from doing that.
And for women in particular, usually with dumbbells, heavy dumbbells, they're okay, but it's the lower body that gets limited. Like, you start to get strong with your lower body and you have 30-pound dumbbells. You start doing single leg exercises and stuff like that, but you get a barbell where you could load, like your progress will go through the roof.
Yeah.
Next question is from Lori Elizabeth 48.
Hello, Lori.
I'm training for my first bikini competition in April. My coach provided me with a meal plan with no gluten or dairy because she says these foods are inflammatory. I don't have any food intolerances, so I'm wondering if I really need to eliminate these foods this far out from the competition. I don't want to develop any digestion issues later by excluding these from my diet for too long.
Yeah, so the last part, you're probably okay. I wouldn't worry about that. Now, so prep coaches talk about foods that make you look puffy. And they'll put things in there like gluten and dairy. And now, if you have an intolerance to them, they will make you puffy. You will be more inflamed. If you don't have an intolerance to them, you won't. Dairy in particular, really good, healthy dairy, if you don't have an issue with it, is not inflammatory. It's a very healthy, there's nothing wrong with it. Bodybuilders used to eat dairy up to the day of their show.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Now, gluten.
Nice and anabolic.
Gluten can cause puffiness in a lot of people. And here's the thing, too, with food intolerances. Your digestion might seem okay. You might have a minor intolerance. And the only way you'll know is if you eliminate them and you'll notice a pound or two loss on the scale with all things being the same. In other words, the same calories. I'm just not eating these. Wow, I look like I've lost a pound or two. Then you might be holding water from them.
Yeah, there are a couple ways I would look at this. One, eliminating gluten and dairy for a period of time is not going to hurt you by any means. It's not going to all of a sudden you're going to, because you exclude it, now you're going to create digestive issues. That's not going to happen. But you may have a slight intolerance with it, which then you would see that when you get rid of it. So that would be a plus to have some more insight on that. But even if you did have a slight intolerance to it and you kept it in the diet for now, and then you eliminate it as you get closer to stage, you would also be
That's
fine.
what'll make the big
You'd
difference.
also be fine too.
Yeah, 2 weeks or 3 before.
Because it's really, if you have just a mild intolerance and you're just getting a little puffiness, a little water holding, it will make a difference visually when you get on stage. And absolutely, like my clients, my female clients and male clients, we're not using dairy and gluten in the last couple of weeks. Because we're checking every box we possibly can that may possibly retain a little bit of extra water in them. But early on in the prep, when they're 10 weeks out, like I'm not worried about something like this, especially if they don't have an intolerance.
And I think this is one of those like paint, you're painting with a broad brush because so many people do seem to have an intolerance to gluten.
It's an easy
dairy.
coaches check the box.
Yeah, and it's like, well, every time I do this, I seem to get a good result. It's because a lot of people tend to have issues with them. So also, the January special is here. We have 4 workout program bundles: the new to weightlifting bundle, the body transformation bundle, the New Year Extreme Intensity bundle, and the body transformation bundle 2.0. Every single one of those workout program bundles is $300 off retail. It's a massive sale. If you're interested, go to mapsjanuary.com. All right, back to the show.
Next question is from Nina Worgan. Do you have a 1-day-a-week program? That's all the time I have to commit to.
MAPS Anabolic.
Yeah, you could do MAPS Anabolic 1 day a week.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alternate the workouts.
Yeah, I mean, you wrote it to where there's a 2-day option. You could literally drop one of those days or alternate those in the workout and be totally fine. Yeah. And I tell you what, I love this question because no one ever asked this question. And it's, if you have a very effective 1 day a week program, you are way better than like 80% of the population.
Okay, full disclosure, a full 50%, half of my clients towards the end of my career for the last, I want to say 6 or 7 years, trained with me 1 day a week. And this is how it looked. When they started training with me, it was 2 or 3 days a week. And then eventually we moved down to 1 day a week, and they were active throughout the week. And they were perfectly fine. Most people would get great results with 1 day a week of strength training so long as they were active the rest of the week.
Yeah.
You don't need much strength training to get the results and the benefits of strength training. Now, you're not going to look like a bodybuilder. You're not going to have these rippling, crazy-looking muscles, but you're going to develop more strength. You're going to have more sculpt, more shape. If the average person just did a
weight training focused workout,
yes,
exclusively,
that's it.
I think that's the move there, because the rest of the week you can kind of flux your activity, and that can range in terms of like your movement. But if we get that weight training in, that's going to carry you so much.
If you
further.
strength trained one full like MAPS Anabolic one day a week and made a conscious effort to walk throughout the rest of the week and keep your diet in check, you're fine. You would have a pretty damn good physique.
Yeah.
Yep.
You would have a good enough physique that people think you work out.
That's right.
That's how good of a physique. You're like you said, you're not gonna look the best version of you. You're not gonna look like a bodybuilder. You're not winning any competitions. You're not gonna look jacked and shredded. But you would look like you work out. You would, if you would look fit and healthy, if you trained one full body a week, you throughout the week and made an effort to hit, say, 10,000 steps, and you kept your diet in check, you would very healthy.
This is one of my favorite selling points of strength training. It's one of those forms of exercise where you don't need much to elicit a really good response. Other forms of exercise, you kind of need to do a lot to see visible changes in the body. Strength training is unique in that very little done properly. And properly doesn't mean as hard as you can, by the way. Sometimes people think, 1 day a week, I got to go beat the crap out of myself. No, properly is appropriate. Appropriate intensity, appropriate resistance, appropriate volume. Maybe for most people, it'd be like 4 exercises, 3 sets each, something like that. If you did that 1 day a week and got yourself stronger week over week, that's it. You get great results.
If you've been listening to this long enough, you've probably heard us say this, but this was one of my favorite things that I figured out later in my career is many times when I had a client that would tell me the time thing and they didn't like working out, I would close them on this 1 day a week and then just being active and diet thing, because I would love to show them how much I could show them with just that. And then many times that client goes, wow, this is what we did with just 1 day. What if I did one more day?
That's right.
And then I would get them a second or a third day, because I love to show them what we could do with just 1 day of good strength training paired with good diet and activity, what I could do with a physique. And then a lot of times that client who didn't have any time all of a sudden would find another day or two to work out.
Next question is from Hans Mama Snai. If you've got to the point where you feel like you're big enough or too big, how do you transition your diet and protein goal and your workout return? routine.
By the way, this is so rare. Whenever I see a question like this, I'd like to see the person.
Yeah.
Because usually what this means is my body fat percentage is too high. It's so rare that someone's built too much muscle. Building muscle's hard.
Yeah. It's
a slow process. There's a very, very, very small percentage of the population who have the kind of genetics to build the kind of muscle where you're like, ooh, you're starting to push
built
it.
Mass.
Yes.
You know, now we got to kind of trim that up.
Yeah, this typically means your body fat's too high. But let's just say, for argument's sake, you are one of those 0.01% of the population where you just build crazy looking muscles. You know what you do? You just
start running.
Yeah, reduce the volume.
Pick up running.
Do other forms of activity. Cut your calories a little bit, and you're totally fine. You'll be able to maintain that. It really won't be in it.
Is this a female? Do you know? Can you tell? Is it? I mean, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I believe so.
I'm guessing it's a female.
Yeah.
And this tends to come from the female who finally got convinced to start lifting weights. They're lifting weights, but they're not dieting properly.
Yeah.
And they've put
That's usually what it is.
They've put some weight, muscle size on, and now they're like, I'm as big as I want to get. I want to go the other way. Well, we got to tighten the diet up. We got to lean out. We don't need to lose muscle, and we're not too big because you lifted weights. What it is was we didn't diet properly, and we put on some body fat with the muscle. And what you would like to do is keep that muscle and drop the body fat percentage, and I bet you'd be very happy with.
I've heard this. First of all, this is what's funny about this is this is a fear sometimes that women will have. Well, I don't want to lift weights; I'll get too big. It won't happen. And I've had a few female clients say that to me while we're training. Okay, Sal, I'm getting too big. And I'm like, well, your body fat percentage is 32%. It's not the muscle that's making you too big. Let's get you leaner and then see what you feel like. And then we get them leaner and they're like, oh my God, I love the way that I look and that I feel. It's just the feeling of more firmness to their muscle plus the body fat that they're carrying, and they're afraid that now they look too big. No. It's not the muscle, it's the body fat. Like I said, I've never run into somebody who literally built too much muscle. That's very, very rare. And if you're one of those people, you're probably always the most muscular person in the room for your entire life, and you probably were a high-level athlete and just one of those genetically gifted, just rare individuals. You're like Brock Lesnar. You look at a picture of Brock Lesnar when he's 9, you're like, oh, that's
his daughter. You could tell.
His daughter looks like him with long hair.
Yeah.
That's somebody that could build that kind of muscle. But you just need to get leaner is probably what the deal is. All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. 30% body fat. For men, this is way too high. This is actually a bit high for women as well. So in today's episode, we're talking about how you can go from 30 to 10. What is 10% body fat? This is when you have a visible six-pack. Can you go from 30 to 10%? Yes, it's possible, but not if you guess along the way. So we're going to talk about how you can do that in today's episode.
Now, there's a huge range, right, of like body types.
Yes.
Some people can run a little bit heavier or a little bit higher body.